Hi there, my name is Kay Moon, and I'm a twin soul channel and Western astrologer. And this is a video about the full moon in Aquarius occurring on July 23rd, 2021 at 10:36 p.m. Eastern Time, if you happen to be on the eastern seaboard of the United States. Please check a time zone converter for your local time. This particular full moon in Aquarius brings with it a lot of huge potential. It's a bit of the kind of quiet before the storm. It's, when you watch track and field meets, when they say ready, set, go, it's the set point. It is the pre-launch point for a lot of the really significant events that will occur in the second half of the year. It's, what can I call it? I have a girlfriend once who said to me, Kay, I feel like I'm in a highly potentiated state, where she felt like she had all of this potential, but it just hadn't yet been fully made manifest in her material world. And that's what this full moon in Aquarius feels like. As I look at the energies, it feels like a potentiated state where there's a lot of potential. It just hasn't fully come to fruition in the third dimension. And so now we're going to talk about what that's about and why and what we can do with the energy. If you're new here, welcome. I'm here every new and full moon. I hope you hear something that validates your intuition. And if you do, I'm just going to ask you to give that video a thumbs up or subscribe to join our tribe here. Here's our full moon at the first degree of Aquarius. The full moon sits alongside Pluto with Chariklo and not very far from Saturn. Altogether, this is really bringing us back into our intentions and the new energy that really hit the planet Earth in February when we had Aquarius season. And so this is now Leo season. The moon is in its the opposite sign of the sun. It's in Aquarius, the opposite sign of Leo. And so we have this 6-month callback. Have you done what you said you wanted to do? Are you where you said you wanted to be? Have you opened the things you said you wanted to open? And have you closed the things you said you wanted to close? The interesting thing about this energy, because of the proximity of Pluto and Saturn, is that it brings us back just a tad to some of the 2020 energies. And in 2020, we were invited to let go of some things that really weren't serving us in our journey toward the expression of our fullest potential. Pluto being the lord of the underworld, the destroyer, the one who governs resurrection cycles and the alchemical process that changes one thing into another thing. And Saturn, the one that is all about the restoration of integrity, the movement of away from things that compromise our wholeness and toward things that allow us to stand in our sovereignty. The two of these, speaking with this full moon together, in particular, are asking us, what is it that we need to let go of in order to make our intentions happen at this point? Is there a dream that we held on to that it's very clearly past its expiration point? Is there a person or a relationship that is, we're clinging to, that is not showing? We've given it enough chances to kind of show the potential. Is there a job that we know we need to leave, but we're kind of attached to it simply because we've done it for so long? Is there a home that we need to move away from? All of these are the questions that this full moon brings to the table. What do we need to let go of so that something else can live? During this full moon, because Pluto really deals with a lot of our power and our energy, it deals with fear, it deals with the things that manipulate us, the things that we manipulate. This full moon illuminates the power struggles that we have within ourselves. It reveals those things to us where we're getting in the way of our own manifestations and our own wish fulfillment. There are definitely restrictions here. This is not a you can have it all kind of transit. This is a you can have what you want, but what are you willing to let go of in order to make it real kind of transit? Many of the restrictions are going to be things that are hanging out in our mind and in our mental state. And as long as we're willing to be creative, there will be a way forward. And also, as long as we're willing to let go of the things that really no longer serve us, there will be a way forward. But if we're trying to hold on to the old ways while manifesting something new, this period of time will lend itself to repeating a cycle as we approach the Lion's Gate in the early part of August. So there's a bit of a bifurcation or a split point here in collective energies where we have the opportunity to take all of the potential that we're feeling and sensing and ground it into the third dimension and make something new happen here. We also have the opportunity to repeat a cycle. Our universe and the dimension that we live in is benevolent in such that we are not forced to do a new thing. Certainly, things get harder when we don't evolve and grow. But if we would like to repeat the sixth grade multiple times, there's no penalty for that once we're outside of the school system. In fact, you get to repeat things as much as you need to in order to learn and grow. So here's a choice point. Do you want to do a new thing? If so, there are some things that must be let go of in order for the new thing to live. And those things would have become very obvious to us in 2020, whatever they were. Those things would have become plain then. And now that we're well into the halfway point of 2021, you may see some of those things start to creep right back in, life trying to resume itself as usual. But we're in a place where things have changed to such a degree where it's not business as usual anymore. And this full moon, more than any, is really going to highlight that for all of us. We have Moon in conjunct Venus at this time. And here's Venus over here sitting with Mars. And the in conjunct energy is a very special kind of energy. A lot of astrologers don't talk about it very much, but it's an energy where if one is in expression, the other one is mute. And if that mute one becomes expressive, the other one goes mute. And so it's an either or, a tug of war kind of energy almost, where you can't hold both things at the same time. And this is really representing and illuminating because of Venus's position in Virgo. Venus represents the things that we value. It also is associated with love. It's associated with money. When it's conjunct Mars, we're talking about things that we are passionate about, things that matter to us a lot, things that, we're really willing to live for and thrive and survive for. Those things are in a conversation of tension with this full moon that's really trying to help us release old patterns of behavior and thought so that we have the opportunity to quantum leap forward. Aquarius is the sign of the quantum leap. However, there's no way to make that leap without first acknowledging that there are some things in the way of that move forward. This is a place and a time in the transits where we're going to see our own cognitive distortions, meaning we may have some all or nothing stories, some win-lose stories about our lives. Well, I could never do this because of that. And so, I'm winning in this way, but I lose in that way. Life has the potential to be win-win for all of us. But in order for things to be win-win, there are some falsehoods, limiting beliefs, limiting perceptions that will be illuminated through this full moon period, the week prior and the week after, that will help us understand, oh, I see. I'm the one shackling myself to the way things used to be. Life isn't doing it. I'm doing it to myself. And here's what I can do to participate in my own freedom. So these things are going to start to come to the surface and require us to start making some difficult choices and be exceptionally honest with ourselves about what has to be let go of in order to create that which we want in the world of love and money and our passions on planet Earth. You know, for many of my clients that I've spoken to this week, there's a belief in their smallness and the lack of their own potential. There's a belief that somehow there is a less than-ness to them that makes it so that they couldn't pursue their dream or their passion, or they can't step forward on their own and be financially responsible for themselves outside of the marriage that they're in, if the marriage is coming to completion, or it's not possible for them to have a child at their age, or it's going to never happen for them that they could start that business. These kinds of falsehoods about self are what we, at the light, in the light of this full moon, we're coming to terms with. So if there's something you've been passionate about, you know, maybe back in January, February, you said, you know what, 2021 is going to be my year. I'm not holding back anymore. This full moon in Aquarius is going to reveal the last steps you need to take before you can spring forward. With Pluto talking to Neptune by sextile, so here is Neptune, here's Pluto, and Pluto is definitely influencing this moon. Sextile is the 60-degree angle. It is harmonious, but only insofar as we are willing to do the work to create the harmony. With Pluto talking to Neptune by sextile and Mercury in opposition to this Pluto here, there's a real breakthrough in the way we're seeing our fears and their relevant coping mechanisms. So, for example, one of the ways in which I've seen some of the clients that I've worked with really struggle with their fears about not being enough is to just tamp down their potential through smoking marijuana, through distracting themselves with multiple different kinds of relationships at the same time, through carrying on family dramas, through clinging to a job that sucks their soul dry. You know, these kinds of compulsive or addictive coping mechanisms at this particular time are going to be things that we're going to naturally feel like, oh, I just need to do it. I just need to Netflix for 6 hours. I just need, to get blitzed and not have to think about this right now. And those coping mechanisms are going to show up, but what they're there to reveal is that, oh, this is my go-to when I don't trust my potential. This is what I do when I don't trust life. This is what I do when I get afraid, because the Plutonian energy really deals with our fears. And Pluto being the outermost between Mercury and Neptune, Pluto's the one that's having the largest influence on all three, the moon, Neptune, and Mercury. And so this Plutonian threshold that we're all at, Pluto talking to Neptune, Pluto talking to Mercury, it's illuminating those places that we go to when we are afraid. What is it that we do? And what is it we can do to transmute, to really deal with those fears directly, feel them, but also prove to ourselves how invalid they are. Most of the time, fears don't go away because we meditate them away. They go away because we have taken an action to prove that they are not real. You remember, I don't know if you remember being a kid and perhaps being afraid of the boogeyman, closing your eyes and pretending like the boogeyman wasn't real just made it sometimes even more scary. But when, a parent or an older sibling turned on the light and opened the closet door and showed you there was nothing there other than the clothes, it may have made you feel a bit more safe because you could see it with your own eyes. There's nothing to be afraid of. And this is one of those transits that's saying, okay, if there is something that is manipulating us through our fears and holding us back, what has to happen is an action needs to be taken to help us see how unfounded our fears really are. And it's through this process that we get to step into our own creatorship. There's a lot more to this particular full moon. I'm going to talk more in depth about this Venus-Mars conjunction that's brought a lot of very sexy, extremely passionate energy to the last week and into the next week. I'm also going to talk a bit more about Saturn square Uranus and Chiron sextile Saturn, because Saturn's playing a really big role in our ability to move forward. There are some specific things we're going to have to do to move forward. I'm going to talk about that after we show this little commercial from YouTube. We'll see if YouTube shows it. If you're willing to watch it all the way through, I thank you. When participants or viewers watch the YouTube ads, it definitely helps me to continue to create this kind of content. Let's pause and see if YouTube will show it. Thanks. Awesome. Welcome back. Okay, so let's get into it with Venus and Mars. So when Venus and Mars come together, this is very traditional in astrology for sexy, steamy, passionate, desire, motivated kind of energy. And depending upon what house this falls in your chart, is where you're going to feel the turn on the most. Each of the 12 houses represent a particular area of life for you. And so for my star schoolers, I invite you to revisit your chart for where the sign of Leo and the sign of Virgo sit, because that's where that turned on engine energy is going to be felt in your chart at this particular time. Where that's happening is a place of motivation. That's what we were talking about earlier, this potentiated state. For some people, this is definitely going to play out in a physical, sexual kind of way where you may be feeling more physically turned on than usual, but not for everyone necessarily. For some people, this is going to fall in their career house or their health house. And so they'll be motivated to take action in those places. For other people, this will fall in their first house and they'll be motivated to change who they are and really grow. So make sure you're paying attention to the house where this Venus Mars conjunction sits. And this is your Leo and your Virgo house, wherever that sits in your particular chart, because that's going to tell you where you can harness the energy to do a new thing. This energy is really driving us right up to that threshold of where our fears live that we were talking about earlier. And it's echoing the fact that we have a choice. Will we have the courage to confront our fears and carry on through the threshold on our journey in our creatorship? Or will we kind of devolve back into our old, comforting, distracting patterns at this time? Like I said, this could be drugs. It could be some people travel to distract themselves, especially now that things are beginning or continuing to reopen. Some people, just need to escape to deal with the difficulties of the moment to moment life. Some people use sex to distract themselves. alcohol, kind of like I said, get blitzed. Some people will work, and you may find that this is a period of time where you're like, oh no, I have to work, so that you don't have to deal with the fears, feeling like if you can just work even more, the fears will get resolved on their own. The reality about this particular transit, unfortunately, because of the way Venus and Mars are, as I say, in conjunct to the full moon, the reality of this period, and because of the way Pluto is speaking to Mercury, unfortunately, the normal coping mechanisms that we would have used to alleviate the stress and the pain, whether it was addictive or not, they're not going to satiate at this time in the ways that they may have in the past. And that's because we're really being asked at this time to break through our self-imposed limitations, to take, our self put on blinders off, and just really confront the truth of what our full potential is, so that we can access it in the third dimension and see where we have stopped ourselves from accessing our full potential. And so there will be some learning lessons here, right? There will be some insights at this time around, oh, this is where I stopped myself. Got it. Okay. No, I know what to do. If that's where the issue is, I know how to overcome it. So some new insights will come in here. And that's part of the nature of this year, with Uranus in full square to Saturn all year. It's breaking down our habituated patterns around the way we think growth and our lives should work. And it's going, how about instead of should, we let go of that and we look at what is and what we want to become, and we embrace that. Uranus square Saturn this whole year is trying to help us move forward. But again, it's through the process of breaking down what was that we get to have what is to become. There's also a bit of a tension here with Jupiter. Let me get these circles correct. Y'all know I can't draw. Here's Jupiter. Here is Venus and Mars. There's some tension here because of the way they are opposed to one another. And this Jupiter opposition to Venus, Venus conjunct Mars, this really has the potential to land us squarely in the realm of overdoing it, overindulging, overspending, oversleeping, really trying to get those old coping mechanisms that we were talking about earlier to make us feel better in the way that they used to. However, at this time, they can't, given the ways that these transiting energies are positioned. I spoke about this like at length in an earlier video this year, that this year we really have an opportunity to break old addictions, break old compulsions. It is an addiction breaker kind of year. And if you're working on that, in whichever way you are, feeling like, okay, yeah, I know I do this thing when I get anxious, and maybe it's not an addiction, but maybe it's just an unhealthy coping mechanism. This particular full moon in Aquarius will really reveal it to you so that you can see it with 2020 eyes and take an action around it. Because of the overdoing it energy here, that might be, in some cases, for some people, what it's going to take in order to see, oh, wow, yeah, that really doesn't work. Like, it really doesn't work when I gamble all my money. It really doesn't work when I drink the whole bottle instead of just some of it. It really doesn't work when I have that much marijuana. Okay, got it. Okay, so that's my coping mechanism. What am I avoiding? And how can I get to the bottom of accessing the fear so that I can turn the lights on and prove to myself the boogeyman's not real? So there we go with that. Saturn square Uranus, Chiron sextile Saturn. I told you we would be coming to that. So here is Chiron, here is Saturn, and they are having it out. And I like this energy. because Chiron really likes to dredge up our old wounds, and Saturn wants us to deal with boundaries and inappropriate boundaries, structure that needs to be broken down. It wants us to deal with our wholeness and our integrity. And when Chiron and Saturn speak in harmony to one another, if we are willing to do the work in the sextile, these won't be insights that just kind of come out of thin air because you woke up today. These will be insights you're working for in class and therapy, journaling and meditation. If you're working toward your insights where it comes to the way you self limit, Chiron sits in the sign of the self, and Saturn is sitting here in the sign of our collective quantum leap. If you're actively working on recognizing the ways in which you self limit or allow the collective energies, collective people around you to limit you, if you're working on coming to terms with that, you're going to find that the insights are here for a breakthrough. And the way you close 2021 is going to be very different than the way you started it. There's a real potential here to step into mastery in your self creatorship, self manifestation, to become the kind of person that you've been wanting to be and create the kind of results in your life you've been wanting to create. So that's a very exciting energy, and I like that we get to work with this for a good chunk of the remainder of the year. This energy is now kind of locking into place. It was here last month, but it's here for the next 6 months, and it gives us ample time to get ourselves in front of a mirror and really look, okay, this is what I can do to grow. This is what I can do to not be limited anymore by either trying to stay connected with people in the collective around me, the friend circle around me that just aren't healthy for me. And here's what I can do if I'm limiting myself. Here's what I can do to heal self and then also heal in my community group as well. Okay. For some of you, this is going to be about finding new friendship circles. That much I can see here. It's about putting yourself in new communities, people who are aligned with your goals and what it is you're trying to achieve and accomplish. And for others of you, it's more directly about curbing negative self talk and getting into right relationship with self. Okay. So there is one more energy here that I want to speak to, and that's this T square here. Here's our friend Lilith. I've spoken about her in the past. There's Lilith, and she is participating in this conversation with Jupiter and the Mars Venus conjunction. You guys have probably heard me speak about T squares before. And the interesting thing about T squares is that they do provide an energy of tension that can make us feel a bit locked into paralysis, like a deer in headlights. The fight or flight or freeze energy can really show up in the T square because we can feel definitively pulled in two different directions. And so the way to work the T square's energy out is to lean into the sign that is unoccupied by transiting energy. And in this case, that's Sagittarius. Sagittarius has the South Node and Juno here, but they're not at that 0 degree mark like these guys all are. And so we wouldn't consider those as influencing this. We would consider that 0 degree mark vacant, and it's leaning into Sagittarian energy that's going to help us break the tension of the T square. Sagittarian energy is all about truth. It is about freedom and the freedom to follow the truth for you. Sagittarian energy is about our philosophy and our higher ideals as well. There is a little bit of energy of travel here and needing to break free from some of the monotony and the mundaneness of some of our routines, but this more has to do with going where we can learn, going where we can grow. And for some, that may be back to school specifically, but for others, that may be just putting yourself in environments where you can actually start growing in ways that you were unable to grow before. And so that's an important energy to recognize here, because if you're feeling the tension of like, I have all this passion, but I'm really held back and I just want to take the edge off, and I don't know what to do because Lilith is sitting in Gemini. I would say Lilith's energy doesn't necessarily do well in Gemini, because Lilith is pretty direct. She kind of knows what she wants. She goes for it. And if it's not going her way, she tends to kind of exit stage left. Like she doesn't sit around and kind of, well, let's try it and see. And the gifting of Gemini energy is its willingness to wait and see and not need things to be very definitive. But here's Lilith causing a lot of tension because she doesn't merge well with that kind of energy. The way to get out of the tension is to go, okay, what's my actual truth here? What do I actually want? But also, what is the truth that I have found difficult to face that's been staring me in the face? I find I've been having a lot of those conversations as well, not just with myself, with friends, with clients. It's in the air. And that's because of the way this T-square is set up here. If you can do some journaling or meditation about that question, what's the truth that's staring me in the face that I have found difficult to accept? If you can lean into that question and let life show you that truth, you're going to find the tension subsides, you know what to do, the action becomes apparent, and you're no longer locked in to the tension of this full moon in Aquarius. Okay. We have an energy here also of Juno speaking. This is where Juno does come into play. She's speaking to, she's trining the sun and sextiling this particular full moon. And for some, this is going to be emblematic of a return of a relationship from the past, or the resurfacing of certain relationship themes from the past in a new relationship in the present. And even if it's not a resurfacing of a person or a resurfacing of the themes in a new relationship, it just could very simply be, here are some lessons, the universe is kind of dropping them on you. Here are some lessons you didn't learn from your past relationships. How about you chew on these? And that kind of energy could really come forward at this time. And so in all cases, all three of them, if it's a person from the past or themes from the past with a new person, and the reason why I say past is because Juno is retrograding over the South Node. In situations like that, South Node can act as a portal, and people or circumstances from the past represented by that planetary energy can come forward. And so Juno is our partnership asteroid coming forward from the past through the retrograde energy back and forth over the portal point. In all cases, whether it's a person, a theme, or simply a lesson, in all cases, the point is to get the lesson. I was just trying to build up to that point. Sorry, it took me so long to explain it that way. In all cases, the point is to pay attention to what does this person, what does this theme, even if I'm with a new person, but it's like, oh, wow, yeah, I've really seen this before. What does this feel like? What does it remind me of from the past? And what am I supposed to learn and do differently? Like I said, there's definitely a bifurcation point here, where some people are going to say, you know what, I didn't spend enough time with this or that lesson. I think I'm going to go set myself up to repeat it. And other people are going to be like, yeah, I've had enough. I don't ever want to see that again. Give me all the tools that I can so that I do this 1,000% differently, because I don't ever need to repeat that again. So however you want to do it, up to you. Trust your intuition. Trust what's manifesting in your world at this point. If you're needing to repeat something at this time, try not to be hard on self, but instead ask self, you know what? There must be something more here for me to learn. What is it? There must be something more here I didn't see that first time. How can I better see it and understand it this time? All right. If you'd like for me to look at your chart as we move into the second half of the year, now's the time to get booked. August is going to go quickly. I'm already booking into the middle of August, but I would love to speak to you if you've heard something here that resonates for you today and you're looking for a breakthrough in any area of your life. This is a great period of time as we get closer to the month of August, that Lionsgate month, for us to look at, okay, what's required for you to get the breakthrough that you need. Find me over at kmoonastro.com. 30 and 60-minute readings will be available there, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. If you're new, definitely subscribe if you heard something that resonates for you. And thank you so much for watching, liking, and sharing.